I'm joined today by J.H. Northrop, and we're here in the store, so you might hear a little traffic noise, but just ignore that. So we were talking about getting started, even if you don't have a local group that does what you want to do. And I mean, your advice was just do it.
Just do it. Just start doing it.
Right.
And that's, yeah.
And really, it is all about a journey, about, picking something that you're very interested in, and then researching, and then not just researching history for researching history's sake, or learning it from a book. And I mean, what do you get out of that? You read it in a book, it's like, oh, that's mildly interesting.
You get not much. I mean, that's a lot of, and some people, that's what they want. There are interpretive people out there who all they want is to put on the uniform, know the history of the regiment, the history of the battles.
Right.
Go to the events, look pretty, shoot muskets.
Right.
Or go to the event and make something out of leather, or something out of wood, or something out of iron.
Well, but even that, there's people that are interested in history and they just read the book.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But how much more do you get out of it?
You come to understand so much more about what actually happened, how it happened, why it happened. To sit back and read about a campaign, okay, you can read that, that's great.
Sure.
To actually be able to go through the experience, although minus smallpox, actual death, etc.,
Right.
to go through the actual experience of being in a native ambush scenario, to go into the morale breaking, to actually watch units' morale break as the tactical is moving, suddenly takes you from being the outside perspective looking in to having a better understanding, although not perfect, but a better understanding of what was going through these people's minds. Why did this happen like this? How did this happen like
Right.
this?
So it's sort of like learning history. Instead of from looking at from the outside to it, you're on the inside looking out.
Exactly.
So a
exactly.
completely different idea of how to learn about history, and so much more. Well, immersive, which is one of those new...
experiential.
Right, experiential.
That's the term that we use, so.
Right. What do you think about that, finding people who are interested in doing what you're interested in?
If you are really doing it, if you're really committed to doing it, and maintain an open mind,
Right.
and realize the barriers to entry, which the big one is cost,
Right.
realize the limitations people have on time, you can go ahead and actually build it and make it grow.
Well, I'm thinking if you really want to do it and you start doing it, you're going to talk to people about it, and all of a sudden,
People come forward.
Right, they get interested.
Yeah, I mean, part of like with our Russian interpretive group, we don't actively recruit. A lot of groups, you'll see them up at the Kalamazoo Gun Show, Feast of the Hunter's Moon, Fort Frederick, Maryland. You see these different sites, and they're recruiting.
Right.
Our stance instead is we're not going to recruit you. If you're interested in what we're doing, you'll show up.
Right.
If you're not interested, that's fine. Go do what you're going to do.
Right.
Or tell us what you want to do. We can point you towards a group.
Right.
So the thing, we've kind of taken a different approach with it. And that different approach is paying dividends, because you're actually finding the people that have an interest in some aspect of what we're doing, and that's what brings them in.
Right.
And that's what gets them more involved. The thing we found also that's been interesting, because the way I started out reenacting and was taught to reenact early on versus now, early on there was a lot of, and it still happens, a lot of kind of grabbing people from other groups and grabbing and shuffling of people.
Right.
So there's no actual expansion of the hobby, it's just shuffling people.
Right.
We've gotten to a point where we're actually bringing people in from the outside,
Right.
because they find that interest. There's something that catches them, and that's what brings them in.
So normal reenacting, one of the things that was mentioned in the comments was, I don't want to do reenacting with just a bunch of old guys, okay? Because that's not their age group.
If you look at the ages, and I'm going to mean specifically Flintlock era, okay, right now.
Right.
If you look at the Flintlock era markets, one of the things that you see is most units have got a climbing median age.
Right.
There are units out there that literally have a median age of 80 years old.
Yes.
There are units out there that have median age of mid-late 50s, 60s. Our units, or my group, is unusual because our median age is at like 24.
Yeah, which is amazing.
And,
Right.
and it's because it's if you've got an 80-year-old group, there's stuff that they're going to do, and they have physical limitations. It is what it is. And 20-somethings coming in to be involved with 80-somethings can be boring. The 20-somethings want to be doing something. Yeah,
so you have a bit more age integration in your group than is probably is standard at all.
And it's the groups that we've been working with the approach that we're taking. They've been picking up younger people also. So a lot of the units, French units in Southern Illinois right now, are picking up a lot of younger people. They're picking up more active people. And it's not that the older people are no longer in those groups.
Right.
It's that the older people embrace the idea, realize, well, it's not necessarily for them to jump in and start scrumming. They've got members of their groups that do, and they're encouraging the younger people to come in and do it. They realize that if you're 60 years old and you're a reenactor, you've got maybe 10 years left.
Right.
If that. If you're 80 years old, who knows what you've got left.
Right.
And in order for the group to survive, you have to have the new blood come in.
Right.
And if you've got so-and-so's grandkid, okay, that's one. But if you've got 4 that retire out or die in the course of a year, you're not growing, you're shrinking at that point.
You've got the secret. Tell us what the secret is. Because I know there's probably guys out there watching that are currently reenactors, and they've got this old group.
There is no one secret to it.
Come on.
There's several parts to it. A big one is program.
Yes.
Have something for them to do. Have something hands-on, inclusive. They've got to be able to get out there, get dirty, get sweaty. They've still got a lot of energy. So you want to take that energy and guide it.
Right. So you have special programs that are geared specifically toward young guys.
Yeah,
or
young
people.
guys and gals. Number 2 is we put a standard on performance. The younger generation now is different than when you and I were in our 20s.
Sure.
By giving them actual standards of behavior that are expected to go on and it sounds almost like babysitting at times, but basically tells the guys keep it legal, be fun. We also encourage them, in whatever work that they have. Are you performing well at your work? Is stuff moving along? So there is kind of a paternalistic babysitting aspect to it.
Well,
but
that's just saying we expect these things out of you. You have to do that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, and it's we've lost some people because of that. We've gained more because of that.
Right.
Because here's an expected standard of behavior. We can have a lot of fun, but before we get to the event field, here's this hands-on stuff you're going to do, and here's what we expect out of your actual life. This is what you need to be performing within certain parameters.
So give me some examples of the program things that you've found young people interested in.
A lot of it's been the close combat work. The horse work has really caught their attention. Weapons work with horses has caught attention. There's a big curiosity for doing more of the boat work, actually learning how to sail and then how to do, combative sailing.
Okay.
It's interesting how hands-on they want to be.
So skills?
We've got with our basic course, you've got to, you learn to do a flint and steel fire. You learn how to make a map.
Sounds like the Boy Scouts.
It's very much.
But anyway.
It's very much. It's modeled very much off of some of the Boy Scout stuff.
Right.
These basic skills that they don't get today. It's mandatory outdoor time, but you taking them back to those earlier skills, that for whatever reason holds their attention.
So one of the things I can see that people might be worried about is if they start their own unit and it's kind of different from what other things are happening, maybe they won't be accepted by events that are happening, and people would be worried about that. What have you got to say about that?
That happens. That does happen. If you're doing enough of your own programming, again, like I talked about in our model, the program intensive.
Right.
You don't necessarily need events. Okay. Number 1. Number 2, you can pick up little local events anyway, and start getting your feet wet and getting a feel for it. Number 3, you're going to have resistance, whether you like it or not, to something new. There's always resistance to something new. It's basically showing people, this is relevant, this is germane, we're not going away. We're enjoying this, we're having a lot more fun. And one of the big resistances that you'll have from people is if you are actually having fun, and they're set in their stodgy ways and you're doing something different and enjoying it. So it's that part becomes the perseverance aspect.
Right.
So, and there are events around that they'll sit back and say, you have to be within certain parameters.
Right.
And you start with the looser parameter ones like rendezvous, and you slowly work your way in. And a lot of events will go ahead and help you with the guidelines of here's what you're supposed to do. And if you can show them, well, yes, we're within this time period, but here's what we were actually doing and here's what we were actually wearing. Usually events will be more willing to open up to you if you show them that you're competent, you've done your research.
Right.
And that gives you opportunities to go ahead and start playing further that way.
Right. And so if you have enough of a group, I mean, even if it's one guy.
Oh, if you got, there's the other thing is, say you get 60 guys and you're you got a waistcoat and breeches and a tricorn and a musket. 60 guys dressed like that can actually kind of do a manual and shoot volleys.
Right.
Are something the public wants to see.
Right.
And an event site's going to look at that and go, okay, I got
60
60 guys here,
yeah.
and I got 4 guys that are Stitch Nazi perfect,
Right.
museum quality perfect. Yeah, the 4 guys are great, but the 60 make the show.
Right.
So when you start going to the events, with a small group, you can make quite a splash just by remembering that at an event, from an interpretive standpoint, we're a show. So how can you grab the people's attention? How can you grab the people in charge of the event's attention?
Right.
How can you grab the other interpreters' attention? Do what you're doing, do it to the best that you can.
Right.
And if you've got a large mass like that you bring in, events will be hard-pressed to say no to you.
Right. So, and the other thing is, what if you didn't do any events, outside events at all? Okay? It's
That's fine.
Hey.
There are people that are focused on the experiential to the point that they really don't hit events.
Right.
They're really in it more for their own learning, their own edification, their own experience. And that's perfectly fine. That's
So
part
you
of the whole thing as
you
well.
can make your own group and have your own events within your group and
Yeah.
have fun with that. I mean, there's so many different kinds of reenacting and different opportunities for each one of those kinds of groups. So it's like, hey, we're in Arizona, nobody's doing Revolutionary War, but we can have fun doing that by ourselves.
California has F&I units. There's an F&I Highlander unit, and I forget what the other one is. The F&I in California was basically Spaniards.
Right.
And if you go far enough north, maybe some Russians. And yet they have F&I redcoat units in California.
Well, they have American Civil War in Great Britain.
Yeah.
And there's any number of, and Native American is really popular in Germany.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's so many different kinds of reenacting that can be done. It doesn't matter where you're at.
Right.
It matters what you really want to do.
Yeah, and then doing it.
Right. I want to keep asking this guy more and more questions. This is getting too long, so I'm going to cut it right here, and we'll come back in a future episode. And there's so many more topics here to tease out of this. This is a deep, deep topic to go in. So make sure to check out future episodes on this, and thanks for watching. If you're new to our channel, I want to welcome you. You can subscribe by clicking the button right up here. Also check out our related videos. Thanks so much for watching.